Hey, gentlemen, welcome back to part 3 of Stop Going to Jail for Men YouTube series. We are still talking about the definitions, and I'm not going to lie to y'all. Doing this series, I'm kind of nervous because I'm talking about something that I learned about as I was going. I don't know if y'all can hear it in my voice, but I can. But I got faith, I got confidence. So I'm going to keep on going. But like I said, if something is not making no sense or I need to touch up on my wisdom, then please leave that down below in the comment section. Like, don't let me be talking about nothing that I probably still don't know about or I'm still not going to understand about. Please help your girl out so I can help you help me so we can get an understanding. Going back into the definitions, in our part 2, we left off on the word bond, which is a financial agreement that secures a person release from custody while they're awaiting trial. So while somebody is awaiting trial, they can pay a bond so they don't have to be locked up. The next word is trial. That's a formal court proceeding where a judge or jury examines the evidence to weigh the consequences. A trial is everybody coming together, everybody putting their evidence in, everybody putting their opinion in, their words in. You know, the person that's being accused is everybody getting their point out, trying to figure out how are we going to conclude this. So a trial is trying to conclude everything that's happened with this case so we can figure out how we're going to charge or not charge this person. The death penalty is a state sanctioned sentence where a convicted criminal is executed for a capital crime. 1,000-year sentence. I'm sorry, hold on. My bad, y'all. My little nervousness is coming out. Like, girl, get it together. No. Okay, so look, you all. So the death penalty is a state sanctioned sentence where a criminal is convicted or executed for capital crime. We're going to get into that word capital crime so we can understand what that is. The death penalty is the judge, the jury, everybody coming together when they're concluding in the trial, the case, like, hey, this person does not deserve to live based on how bad it is. Again, it's legal to say that. Like, you did something so bad, everybody else that's regular can say, hey, they deserve to die. Now this is where I kind of got stuttered at a little bit because I was wondering, like, the sentence where they give people 1,000 years, they be telling people you are sentenced to 10 billion years for the rest of your life, and it's just the numbers be crazy and they call them football numbers. So I tried to Google it and they said it's no real term, but it's formally known as a great sentencing. That's AGGREGATE, resulting from consecutive sentencing. So when somebody get sentenced with them football numbers like 1 trillion years, is no real term for it, but again, it's legal because they can say it and they probably know you won't live that long. But you and you know what's so crazy about that? They're no fools. These people are wise. They can see the system is not as dumb as we think it is. I think a reason why they be sentencing that high is because they're trying to sentence you in the afterlife. Like, one thing that I always say is the reason why it's so important for us to clean our lives up now and do different things now is because the way we live is the way we're going to perish. If you're unclean, if you're evil here in this world, that's how you're going to be in the spirit. So they're charging you for your physical and your spiritual life. They're no fools to this. They know that this, especially if you get in there and you're not trying to forgive yourself or you're not doing something to clean up your spirit, they're sentencing you. That's crazy. They're sentencing you for spiritual also. Because the man, if you go far into it, like I'm trying to think about it, men can live very long, but they're sentencing your spiritual life, and you don't want to do nothing that criminal to where you're, or criminal at all, but to where somebody gets to put a number on your spiritual life. Because if God looks at that and he says, okay, then hey, now God is trusting man to do their job the right way and to convict people accordingly. If somebody insists 1,000 years, then that possibly could go over into the spiritual realm. That's if you think that far, if you believe that far. but I do. That's why it's imperative for us to change our lives now so we can live however you live now in the physical is how you will live in the spiritual. There was a young man, I don't know if y'all heard the situation. I was trying to go back and find it. I seen it on Facebook, but I couldn't find the story. I don't know the name of it. There was recently a young man that has committed murder, and they sentenced him. Man, it wasn't even a real word. Like the thousand, it wasn't even a real word. They just said, they literally said, hey, because again, written is when you write, that's an agreement, that's a contract. When you say something, that's an agreement. So just like Pooh Shiesty, he wanted Gucci Man to say it out of his mouth on camera. That's why they recorded it. That is proof, that's evidence. They just said the young man, they wanted him to work. They said, we're going to use his youth. Is exactly what they said. If you find that story, please do that down below in the comments so the rest of us can go look at it again. They basically said that they're sentencing the young man to use his youth. They're going to use his youth as a sentence. They can do whatever they want to do. They can say whatever they want to say, and they can make up things however they want to. iChat is an internet criminal access tool. And you want to know what's so funny about iChat? iChat is, well, it's not funny, but again, we have like regular internet tools like Google. You can go Microsoft, you can go Google Chrome, that's like an extension of Google. You can go incognito, that's a privacy feature in Google. But if you're a criminal or someone that goes to jail, you have iChat, that's an internet criminal access tool. And that shows your history, that shows your identity. JPay, we have social media. We got like Facebook, Clapper, TikTok. But JPay is a private company that provides financial, messaging, and communication services to correctional facilities. Now, that was the one that I was saying that it's so funny that they say that, because JPay, I want y'all to be careful when you think about it. That is their form of communication. And I've talked to men in jail before, and we be thinking, I had a boyfriend in jail and everything before, and we be thinking like, okay, we finna be saying this, we finna be sending this, we finna be doing that. JPay is like our Facebook. And anything that you sending through there, and when you trying to scheme and scam, like, bro, I need to do this. Anything that you're sending through there, they have that. This is their federal internet. If they ever wanted to convict somebody longer and they felt like, man, I'm finna hit they JPay and see what they've been talking about, they can do that. And Shorty, whoever dog was talking to, they can also include her in it. What would you call that? Would you call that like, lay down? What would you call that if that was to have, like, a girl was talking to a dude, but they was doing something illegal and they got caught on JPay, because that's the federal messaging center. So they felt like they possibly was going to look into that conversation. They looked into it and found a girl involved, but she ain't never been to jail or nothing. Would that then be like her being a co-conspirator? Come on, Jesus. Now I don't even think that's the one we looked up. I don't think that's something that's in our definitions. But as I'm recording this podcast, if that's the word, confirm down below in the comments. Would that woman then be a co-conspirator, sir? Co-conspirator, sir? I'm gonna look that up. But JPay, y'all got to be careful on JPay. Like, I ain't trying to get nobody no tips or nothing, but just know that that's federal communication. If they wanted to pull something up, they can, and charge you even longer. They can start a new charge. You know, they can add other things. They can, again, a jury, they can present this information like, bro, it was chopping it up like this. So now we gonna, so again, JPay is like our Facebook. JPay is like y'all social media. A defendant is a person that's accused of the crime. So that's the main person. A perpetrator is a person who commits illegal, harmful, or immoral acts. A perpetrator is somebody that a harmful act is like a crime, like a murder. We rebuke that in the name of Jesus. That's a harmful act or a mortal act, like child abuse or child neglect. That's a perpetrator. A co-defendant is a person charged along the side of someone in the same legal case. So the defendant is the one that was like, man, we finna go do this. We finna make this plan. And the co-defendant is the person that was like, all right, so what's the plan? And let's go do this. So the co-defendant is the one that stands on the side of the defendant. They're all in the same case because they all was doing the same thing. Being incarcerated means you are confined or imprisoned against your will and cannot leave. Um, Incarceration is again like being a caged animal, being in a confined place. You can't leave. You're getting, you know, somebody is literally the authority over your life. Everything that you're doing is ran by a system, by a code, by what they want you to do. The next definition is capital crime. This is premeditated murder, terrorism, treason, or espionage. And it's so crazy. I don't even think I knew that word when I read it down. A capital crime is something that can get you the death penalty. So that's premeditated murder. Premeditated murder is you making a plan. You already knew you were going to do this. You knew the time, you knew the date. You got with that co-defendant, that extra person, you know the location, you know how you were going to set it up. That is premeditation. Terrorism, like they did at the Capitol, you going and you're vandalizing or you're messing up federal property. A terrorist going into another country and destroying the property. Treason or espionage, again, that treason is kind of like terrorism, and espionage kind of the same thing. Leave down below in the comment sections if you have any more information on that. Gentlemen, so far this wraps up our part 3 of Stop Going to Jail for the Men podcast YouTube series, our definitions. I'm going to end the definitions here. Going into part 4, we're going to be speaking about 4 types of robbery, giving some examples on that. And we're going to go forth with the series. Again, if there is any additional words that you know or have experienced, leave them down below in the comments. When you do leave them, give us like an example or give us like a reference. If you're comfortable, you can definitely leave your experiences in the comments. Be respectful. If you are currently being charged with anything, then I don't want you to leave anything, because I know you can't talk about certain stuff. So, you know what to say and what not to say, right? No crazy stuff. I won't be commenting back to no disrespect or anything, but leave down below in the comments if you know any other words, some definitions that we missed. I will do my extended research, especially on that word espionage, especially on felony. And it was another word I'm gonna look. Oh, bonding. Thank you. Bonds, because I'm just trying to figure out like how you all be pulling the numbers. Like there has to be some type of number chart that they're pulling that from. So I will meet you back in part 4 so we can get into the different types of robbery. I love you. God bless you, and I will talk to you later.